Hello, welcome everyone. Hope you guys are having a great afternoon. And there were some great sessions that happened before this. So we are actually going to discuss a very important and one of the most happening discussion points around of how AI is actually influencing the entire storytelling format. And it's surprising, the last about 2 years, right? We have heard enough about AI, specifically generative AI. The world has evolved and showing us a lot of these things. And it doesn't feel like we want to really go back, right? And the things that we are seeing, which is coming up, and the things that we are seeing happening in today's world, it just looks wow, and we want more of it. So that's why I keep telling that it's irreversible, and we really don't want to go back. However, we still feel that we are still at the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot to experiment, a lot to learn, lot to look out for. Probably, I would want this session to be more about that, in terms of, what should we do, how can we start our journey, what are the things to look out for. So with that, let me start with the first question. Probably we will have all of you guys participating in the first question round. How do you guys feel that AI is generally influencing and reshaping the entire storytelling which is happening currently? We can start with Shaurya. Yeah.
Hello. So I think AI is interesting because it helping across the content value chain. It's helping you to cut down in the time that you need to do your secondary research to reach the insight stage. Yeah. And from there to understand, how do I take this insight and create multiple content formats around that. So if I have to create like a long form content, which is a 3-minute, what should I, look at that? And if I have to break down a long story into smaller parts, how do I create that? So I think the entire value chain is being disrupted with AI. And what benefit it's giving all of us is rapid experimentation. So instead of looking at only one, way to a particular communication problem or a business problem, I can look at it in multiple ways and, sort of test multiple things before I go out in the market. So I think that's the fundamental change that I see. Specifically in content which is smaller in nature. So your text that you're using on your search engine marketing copies, yeah. Or the text that you're using in your display ads, the images that you're using in your display ads. So that I think it's it's evolving and gives us a lot of time to experiment and find out what will work and what will not work.
Great. Yep. Absolutely. Scalability is one of the key. Yeah.
Hi, I can go.
Put it up.
Yeah, so I can go next. And I would say AI is influencing the traditional ways of storytelling by 4 main components, right? One is the language models. So if you see how it's influencing the way writers used to write, it's reducing dependencies on them. So that is something very critical. Like today, anyone can be a content creator if you just open a AI app and give them a command, right? So after language models, I would say specifically in terms of image models. So when it comes to creating images, which were, traditionally we were very much dependent on agencies to create content in terms of graphic designers creating images. So I think there is also where AI is supporting when it comes to video content. So you reduce your dependency on editors and you yourself can be an editor. So these are key components, and even deepfake AI, right? You can create an entire environment which was not possible until you had very high production budgets for a shoot. So I think these 4 are the key elements that are transforming the traditional ways of storytelling, and this gives more power to individuals, marketers, to be a content creator themselves, and within just maybe a command to a tool.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic point that you built on top of what Shaurya mentioned of that scale, right? Scale actually comes from how do you geolocalize, how do you use it to increase your asset size, how can you add plus plus to what you're currently doing instead of doing 10 videos probably, how can you create probably 25 out of the existing cohorts. That's a great point of view. Sujay, how would you look at it, Sujay? How do you think it influences?
I think we are in very exciting times nowadays. The great part is that we have started talking about AI now,
Yeah.
but frankly speaking, if you see, Turing's test happened in 1950, so that means AI was there since then in our lives, in whichever avatar
Yes.
and format. It's just that I think apart from it getting used into high-end scientific experiments and other things, now it has been democratized.
Yes.
That's the reason everybody is in one or the other way using it.
Using it,
And that's the reason probably all of us are sitting in this room and talking about it, because now we have kind of unleashed the potential of AI and how it can be used in daily lives, how it
Yes.
can be used by brands. And maybe that is one of the aspects which we can touch in today's conversation.
Yes.
What I feel is that the way it is kind of complementing the traditional art of storytelling
Yes,
is
yeah.
it's helping everyone figure out those W's and H's. So who to communicate to, how to communicate to, when to communicate to, how much to communicate to. All those inputs are being governed by those data-driven decisions. However, having said that, I'm still a firm believer of it has to be a balance of both man and machine, and it can't be like let go on a machine to figure out what is the copy and what is the image that needs to be done. But this is something which we'll have to live with. It's a blended reality. It's just that we need to figure out the best way possible to leverage that thing. So when I was talking about those W's and H, how to do it, like I think now we are started using AI in storytelling for the last few years or so, but at least in terms of inciting, which I think Shaurya was touching about. Like inciting, yes, it can definitely help because it will help us crunch a lot of data, which otherwise is difficult and also time consuming. So it will save that time to figure out the correct insights, the correct trigger points. Once you have the correct trigger points, then you can use again a human approach to figure out what is the story you want to tell. Then once you have the story, leverage AI to probably do the translation at scale, which Reena was
Absolutely. Yeah.
alluding to. So a lot of those things can happen hand in hand, keeping in mind how you can go to the market. And then the last point, which I think Shaurya also touched upon, is that entire A/B testing. Earlier there used to be like, okay, fine, let me run the campaign, wait for the consumer insight results to happen. By that time you're 1 quarter down, then you don't know whether the campaign worked or not. And then you're waiting for the next festive campaign or the next campaign. Here you can probably take the decisions. So your speed at which you take the decision and the changes you can do efficiently, I think that is where AI can play the role.
I think it's a very interesting observation, and I keep telling this to a lot of this discussion that I keep having, that AI always existed. It's just that we have now given it a proper form, and the blended module is how you look at AI going forward. How are you able to bridge the right differentiation using machine with human and come out with the most possible outlooks are some of the key ways to go ahead. Great. Moving to the next set of questions. From that, India being such a culturally complex kind of a country, right? Like you see a different culture every probably 50, 100 kilometers. How do you think AI is able to help be personalized, also add a bit of a human element in the storytelling and the creative narrative that we have been doing so far? Shaurya, Reena.
So I think the business that I deal with is B2B commerce. So we are dealing with a grocery store merchant in Patiala. We are dealing with a grocery store merchant in in different parts of the country. So context becomes very important. What also becomes important is the promotions that you're pitching to the consumer. So you have to play with two things. So for example, if I am running a promotion on staples category in the north, the kind of products will change from north to south. So that becomes very important. So it's not only about the culture, but also the consumption that is happening in that part of the country.
Yes.
And that, I think, can be merged beautifully with the data that we have from the platform. And if we create an imagery which is appealing to that particular customer. So earlier when in advertising we always used to look at that, okay, there is a North India market, there is a South India, West, East, and how can I create one persona which will resonate with the entire West, which is actually very difficult. Yeah, it has changed now. So it's more democratic. So when I'm making a creative for Telangana market, and I know for sure that this particular product will appeal more to the consumer, the imagery is more resonated towards that particular market, and the timing is reduced. So I don't spend a lot of time going to each of these markets, doing a shoot, figuring out things. You have people in the sales team in each of these markets who sort of tell you that this is the right thing that we are producing for them, for making their jobs easier. So I think as the other panelists have said, that it's always a mix of human and AI. The AI just makes things more easier and scalable for all of us to make a sense of, and get a response quicker from the market and change on the fly.
Fantastic. I think that's more real and close to the real life examples that you are quoting of how, for a business like yours, which is spread across different parts of the country, how are you actually, or what could be the potential output that we can derive out of AI? Sujay or Reena, would you also like to?
Yeah, I can go next. So, I come from an automotive and B2B background. So, I've worked for Audi India in the past, and currently I'm leading digital marketing for Henkel, which is catering to the adhesives requirements for different sectors, right? Whether it's manufacturing, maintenance. So we ensure that we are talking to different regions where there are several MSMEs, SMEs growing. And if you see these MIDC areas, right? So say a MIDC in the west would be very different from the one in the north because of the different cultures, because of the different audience. So while our business works not only on one person's decision, there are at least 6 to 7 stakeholders when it comes to procuring our kind of product, right? So in this category, our communication or media strategy has to be very region specific, and that's what we've done. We worked with teams to create engaging content pieces, create very hyper targeted ads, create personalized content based on different personas. Say we speak to a design engineer very differently than a procurement guy, right? So this is the kind of scale at which we operate by doing a lot of research, seeing their demographics, online behavior. These kind of audiences purchase mostly from B2B sites like IndiaMart, Trade India, understanding the pattern there. So basically, after gathering a lot of insights, tools like Performance Max, Facebook Advantage Plus have really helped me create the right, and my teams basically create the right communication strategies that will resonate with their requirements. So just one example, if you see the east, there are a lot of tea plantations, so there are tea manufacturing companies, there are a lot of boat manufacturers there, right? So this is the kind of different set of communication where we send to them basis their problems and the solutions that we can provide, vis-a-vis say something for somebody like an SME. So how we talk to account-based marketing clients as well as these smaller companies is very different. We use LinkedIn Sales Navigator for these account-based marketing tools. So weaving journeys through all the latest technologies, using the right content that resonates with the consumer's problems is something that I really work closely with Henkel, and we've seen an ROI this year of 15% for the ad investment that we've made, which is way higher than what was last year, and this is purely after learning a lot of the audience consumer behavior and patterns on our e-commerce shop, how they put in inquiries for leads. So this is a very interesting example from Henkel. And I'd like to quote one which we were discussing earlier from Audi as well. So that talks about the hyper-personalization, right?
Yes.
How can, within a day, how can one brand serve different ads with different communication pieces? So when we launched the Audi A8L in India, we ensured that different creative visuals are showcased at different points in the day. So in the morning, while he's going to office, we showed how your entire car can turn into a mini office yourself, and that was the kind of tonality we used. And while return, the entire massage seats feature is what we showcase, that you can relax on your way back. So this is the kind of diversification in terms of creative and content we used with dynamic creative optimization, which is Google's tool, and that really brought us engaging results as well.
Fantastic. I mean, you gave a classic example of how that human intervention is required, which we currently call as a prompt, right? What is the right prompt? As humans, I think that is our job, to give the machine the right prompt to use, and it's the machine's job to make one as 10 or 100, and then try and make and build a scalable model out of all of that. So, Sujay, do you want to attempt this as well?
Yeah, sure. Like, I'll probably quote the category for which I work for, and beauty as a category is very, very personal for everyone. Like, we have people sitting in this room who are beauty consumers. So, and it won't be a surprise that everybody will have a different beauty code. They have their own beauty ritual. They have their own beauty preferences. So that itself creates a lot of permutation and combination. So then, as a marketer, it becomes increasingly difficult for us to address those beauty codes, address that tonality, address that communication, because unlike other Western markets or even in Southeast Asia, where the population is very homogeneous, you don't have different skin tones, hair types, and even the way people kind of follow a certain ritual. In India, every state is different, every culture is different. So maybe what we also try and do is talk about our products in the context of where we are trying to reach out to the consumers. So maybe a communication down south or down north will be very different, and even the kind of SKUs we'll be pushing in via those communications will be very different. She touched upon the point on DCO, and I think that is something which we have been also actively using by partnering with Google. Basically, the whole idea is that for any consumer, there are certain trigger points. So whether it is personal trigger points like a hair fall or a dandruff or things like that, then a person stays or lives in a certain area. So whether it is a humid area or it's a very hot area. So keeping all those signals in mind, a consumer can be served a very unique ad which will say that, hey, today it's a sunny day, get ready to manage your frizzy hair. And because those are all part of all the search histories and everything which you have done, so it's a mix of primary data which we have ingested in the system, and of course the consumer signals and all, and by which we keep on serving ads which are more relevant and more useful, and of course that gives a better communication opportunity for the brand, and also it delivers a better result for the consumer, because at the end of the day you would want a consumer to get the correct solution, especially in case of beauty.
I think those are some really great examples. I'm sure it is very helpful. And even when brands or marketers are currently here thinking about how to use these solutions, probably they are getting a lot of ideas and sense around it. Moving to the other not so great sides, right? What are the potential risks or threats that you see or foresee with this entire storytelling format, AI being used to actually generate so much of video content, text, or image? How do you see this? What are the threats that you can probably foresee?
I think one primal threat as a marketer you always have is that because there are so many there are only so many ways in which you can say one thing, that you should, this is the reason that you should buy my product, or that is the reason that you should buy my product. So the originality of the idea that AI is throwing at you, I think that's is one prima facie concern, because I mean, you can create an AI to figure out if the AI is, sort of sharing a not so original idea with you, but that, it just, increases the work. So that, I think, always has been my fear when I'm, looking at content which is produced by AI, that is it something original which is created by my prompt, or was it also created for someone else? The second thing is, on digital platforms, it's an open platform. People can use it in the way that they want to. So the fear also is that something which is not created by my brand shouldn't be created by, maybe by a deep fake or any other technology which looks like my brand, because now it's very easier to create, duplicate content.
Yeah.
So that sort of trust factor is always there, and I think that's where things, the guardrails that we have in our brands in terms of listening to the consumer, listening to the social media content, doing social listening very properly to understand how the consumer is also reacting to our content. So I think those are some of the things that I foresee that might be a issue going.
So I think just to build up or summarize your points, basically, you are always worried that if this is an original idea which is coming out, and second is also getting worried about the fact that is my content also being used by some others? Yeah.
That's correct.
Shaurya, how would you look at it from a brand safety point of view as well? I'm just trying to club both questions together. From a brand safety point of view, where do you see this entire AI or probably the output, running towards? Sorry. Sujay, sorry.
Okay.
My bad.
Sure. See, I'll probably take a step back here and probably articulate my answer accordingly. See, one point Shaurya has already touched upon, the originality of idea.
Yes.
And what will that originality of idea will do is that it's the same thing getting churned in that ecosystem.
Absolutely.
So, and my biggest worry is that whatever AI delivers or churns out is a function of the kind of inputs AI has received.
Absolutely.
So the quality of input is very, very important. Otherwise, it is technically garbage in and garbage out.
Yes.
And if the AI hasn't been taught or trained well, of course, it will throw up wrong results.
Yeah.
Once it throws up wrong results, that is where the entire thing starts falling. So
Yes.
that is where all your brand safety, everything comes into the picture.
Yes.
If you ask me, especially from a brand safety standpoint of view, as he was mentioning, duplication of content.
Yes.
Tomorrow, somebody can create a deep fake.
Yeah,
And
possible.
yeah, then it becomes it's a PR nightmare for a brand to
Yeah.
manage that. Those are the kind of challenges, because then it is like a lot of power given just for
The
free,
creators, yeah.
and then that can be used against you.
Yeah.
Imagine this is around the same time in 2010 and 11 when social media started exploding,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
consumers had the opportunity to directly talk to a brand. They would talk to a brand, tagging them, thrashing them on the entire public forum. Overnight, it became a challenge for a lot of brands. I still remember having conversations with a lot of my peers and colleagues at that point of time. Brands were reluctant to come on a Twitter or a Facebook because they were like, okay, we will come there, get some likes, but then who will manage those queries, because people will be thrashing us, bashing
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
Similarly, the challenge is now.
Yeah.
Somebody can create a deep fake video or some audio. We see every day there are so many clips doing the round stating that, hey, this is an offer, this is something, or something is happening for free.
Yeah.
Here is a link to click. So a lot of these things become an added headache for the brands to manage. That's probably also the reason a lot of brands are taking baby steps towards that. And that's
Absolutely, yeah.
exactly what we have also been trying, is to use it in the most efficient way, but by doing a little bit of a test and learn in that case, because it also opens up a lot of data in that open forum.
Yeah, yeah.
Because imagine if you are doing some kind of testing, you want to do some creative testing concept.
Yes.
You give those prompts to the AI. What typically happens is that the AI will also get to know that there is something of this sort is happening. So your brainstorming is no longer private in your boardroom.
Private, yes, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so that's the thing. That's a big challenge.
Absolutely. I mean, those are some of the correct directions, some of the things that probably brands should also look at when they're looking at using AI specifically for storytelling. Reena, would love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, so just adding on to Sujay's point, right, in terms of what he mentioned about the interaction experience with the brand for consumers. So, I mean, I have had personal instances myself wherein, when you start talking to a chatbot on a brand's page or on their website, the kind of robotic responses that you receive, and if you don't receive the right answers to the queries that you ask, that frustration that really comes in damages the reputation that brands build over so many years, right?
Yes.
So this is something that is very critical, and I think we should factor that in whenever we are looking at launching such a product or service in the market. Because brands, when they do multiple campaigns or when they're talking to their consumers give content or interact with the brand if they feel safe to do so. So safe policies which the brand really talks about in terms of such campaigns specifically, like recently Sunfeast launched this campaign during Diwali where you could, Diwali Dasera time, where you could upload a picture of yourself in a goddess avatar, and then you can see yourself as a goddess, right? So this campaign was well taken, I think, towards Calcutta. What they did was, outside pandals, you had to basically click your picture, and through a QR code you could scan. So when somebody is giving their picture to a brand like this, there has to be faith, there has to be trust. So brand policies really need to be strong. And consumers should also be aware that if they are giving any data to the brand, how the brand is going to utilize it.
It's a very, very important aspect that you really touched upon, right? It's great to have a fancy product using AI which is coming out. But what about the privacy from there, right? Who is holding this data? Who is going to be accountable for that information? So I think that's a great part. So, hi Ritu, sorry, you got stuck in traffic. But we were just talking on what do you feel is the potential threat, or when it looks at when you're using AI. Also, how do you feel that how does a brand also react onto these things? What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Thanks, and my big apologies to everybody for being late.
I think it's not. It's just not on. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having me here, and apologies for being late. But very unexpected traffic, because I think, let me not say traffic was the reason, but I think it was the unexpected traffic which was the reason. I think to this question, so I think there are a lot of watch outs for sure. AI is amazing. I think it's been the biggest buzzword this year. We love talking about it. We love using it. But like a lot of things, and I work in consumer health, and there's, the whole word of responsible self-care for us is a big one, because our responsible use of anything is very important. So it's not just the use of AI, but I think it's the responsible use of AI which is very important. And I think, like Reena was talking about, AI means that there is a lot of data exchange that is happening, and hence how a brand uses that data, stores that data, deletes that data. Consumers have the right to know that, to ask that. And that transparency between brands and consumers is very critical for this trust for brands to be able to retain that trust. And trust is paramount for any brand. Over my entire marketing career, I think if there is one equity which is consistent irrespective of category brand that you work on, that you always track, is this a brand that the consumer trusts? It's huge. And that must not be at stake at any point of time. Another big watch out, I think, is the whole, when it comes to storytelling, authenticity is the first most important thing in authenticity, in storytelling. Authenticity in storytelling is important, and authenticity in storytelling comes from human insights, from a human knowing human, the emotional aspect of it. That emotional depth, that authenticity in storytelling should not get lost. Yes. That balance is very important. It's great to use AI for personalizing, customizing, creating segments, creating relevant content for the segments, identifying insights for when, how, where, what you should be talking to those audiences. However, it's very important that we retain the balance between the two. We retain the emotional depth and the authenticity in storytelling. Absolutely. And that's a big watch out. Becoming completely dependent on the machine without responsibly using it can be damaging to any brand's equity. I heard Reena talk about her experience with AI, and I think as a consumer, I get immensely frustrated when I'm trying to reach out to the customer care of any service that I have used, and it keeps telling me, choose between these 4 options, and I have none of them that is relevant to me, and I want to say something else. And I'm like, I don't want to say any of these, give me another option. So understanding that, and what AI enables you to do is that anybody who's working on the other end, I'm sure, is getting that data when a consumer responds back saying, I want something else, I don't want to talk this, but the AI is going to respond saying that, I don't understand, or again, choose between these options. But somebody got to do that analysis, got to do that monitoring to figure out that there are these consumers who are getting frustrated, who are asking something else, and I need to figure out as a way as a brand to be able to cater to their need, to be able to tell them that, okay, this doesn't help you, so I'm going to connect you to a human now, because probably you need a human to speak to. Yeah. So that sensitivity, that monitoring is very important, so that you don't end up with frustrated consumers who then want to leave you.
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you a crack to that. A few years back, we were developing some solution like that, where we had embedded a small prompt which said agent. So once you put in a prompt called as agent in a chatbot, which is where you're not understanding, probably then it would actually connect you to a call center agent. I'm just giving a hack to that, but yeah. Cool. We're towards the end of the panel discussion, so I'll probably want to hear some finishing points in terms of how do you feel probably is a possibility and the disruption that AI can actually bring to the entire storytelling format. Shaurya, we can start with you.
So I think as a brand and as a marketer first, I think we have to see how to use AI for our business in a way that it helps more instead of creating disruption in the wrong format, as was pointed out earlier. So I think we have to start from a point that where will rapid prototyping help me more when it comes to AI? Will personalization help me more, or will creating different content formats for let's say for one specific promotion will help me more? Or will using customer data to create personalization on the platform itself, which is also storytelling of, in a way that, once you open an app, you see something which is, being spoken to you. Like you open an Uber and it knows at 9 o'clock in the morning that you are going to office. Yeah. So even that is, a form of storytelling. So instead of only looking at content formats, we should also see that if a brand owns a platform, how can they use AI in that? And we, because we are an app-only company, so we try to see that how can I use buying patterns in one particular part of the country and sort of modify the SKUs which are presented to them. Yes. Which is a different sort of storytelling per se. So I would say for a business, for a brand, for a marketing team, you have to see that what strategy will align more to my business, and then sort of upscale that.
Can I pick up the key of personalization here? Understanding the user data, sure, and then providing personalization is going to be a big thing according to you, probably in the space.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. So can we have something from you?
Sure. So what we have been trying to do in the last couple of years is that we have exclusively focused on getting the data, which is basically signals around the consumer, if I have to put it that way. So now, since we have a lot of data about the consumer, what we are trying to figure out is that entire journey between a brand and consumer, that bridge which we are trying to address. And there are certain aspects, because the holy grail which we are looking at is that the first C, which is figuring out who is the bullseye consumer, how to reach out to that bullseye consumer, leveraging that data in and around that, and that is where we are leveraging AI. Then second part is the content. So yes, once we have identified the consumer, what is the content which we're going to show to the consumer?
Yes.
That is something at scale which we are looking at. So content at scale becomes our second leg of that C. Then another thing is context, because a lot of time brands miss that trick, is that yes, it is a content which is made for a consumer, but the context is very different. So context is something which we are very watchful of, and also because we know this fact is that every day consumers are getting hit by hundreds of brands.
Yes.
You are one of them.
Yes.
So how you can just develop that context, and that is where probably a lot of CRM comes into the play.
Absolutely,
And that is where we focus on doing a lot more a one-on-one relationship rather than a one-to-many kind of a relationship, which typically happens in that advertisement. And then the last part is the communication method. So the other piece which we will be focusing on is that every consumer has a different preference. So as probably Ritu was mentioning that she would prefer that somebody picks up the call and then, hey, answer those queries. And of course there will be instances where you would want to talk to somebody, but also at sometimes you would just need a WhatsApp response. So if a customer care agent can just give, okay, if it's just about the delivery of an order, by when the order will be there, or it is like, okay, which shade, what shade, send me the entire palette of the shade, all those pieces. For that you don't need a conversation, because you might be chatting in the night when you are free. So that communication method, what works best at that moment of truth, is something which we are focusing. So these are the 4 C's which we are trying to stitch together to create that entire ultimate consumer experience.
Fantastic, and that is where you feel that there is a lot of opportunity, a lot of disruption will happen, right? Yeah, it makes sense, right? Yeah. Reena?
Yeah, so for me, I would say humans hold the entire power of emotional intelligence, right? So considering that as one, and second is basically through machine learning, we can tap the power of data, do a lot of data mining exercises in terms of your consumers, how they interact with your brands, and the combination of these two, if analyzed well, and this will definitely help brands take flight to a next level. So I think, yeah, emotional intelligence and machine learning.
Yeah, 2 critical points, right? If the machine starts putting that emotional responses out, then there is a threat. So humans will always be responsible for putting the emotional element to it, and the more data that you feed in, technically is where machine will actually play a better role to crunch that and give a better output. So great insights there. Yeah, Ritu, we would like to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I think to me, in the future, and if I extend AI to AR, ML, everything, one of the big things that we have definitely coming is better experiences. I think we've started seeing some very good examples. This year I've seen quite a few examples which were quite interesting. A couple of them from Mondelez, I think, were very interesting. So enhanced experiences, and we are today, our younger audience, the Gen Z, is looking for experiences. So I think it's a great space where brands today now are enabled by technology to deliver far more engaging experiences to their audiences. We know that the attention spans become much higher when there are experiences versus just passive viewing, and it helps the brands in building their memorability much better. So that's definitely a space where I am very excited that we are going to see some very good examples around. The second one, I think, for me is efficiency, wherein I think we can really leverage AI also to drive a lot of efficiency, both in terms of cost and in terms of time. the ability of AI to scale content, personalize it or customize it, and create thousands of creatives at much lower cost, at a much faster pace, will bring in a lot more efficiency.
Absolutely, yes.
The third, I think, which I think everybody's talked about, is the content personalization aspect, which to me again helps towards the whole engagement piece, because if we have time, I'll give a very, very quick, interesting example for this. So I went into a school for telling kids about what is marketing. Yeah. And very interestingly, these were senior KG kids, and they said, I know because on YouTube I see skip ad and I press on it. And it was very interesting because even that 5-year-old essentially was saying that ads are very irritating and I don't want to watch them and I want to rather skip them. Yeah. And that, I think, will gradually and hopefully change to when advertising becomes more contextual, more relevant to what I actually need and I want to see. It becomes more engaging and less irritating. Yeah. And I think that is the possibility. When we have more data, we are able to really deliver what the consumer needs versus what irritates them. Yeah. And that's the future that you want to move towards.
Completely agree. Yeah. So, A, better experiences. Second is effectiveness. Just a small bit of advice for all the brands. Don't try and reduce commissions. Try and build scale. Third is also personalization. I mean, it was a great session. Sorry, we are running out of time. So if you guys have any questions, we will all be somewhere here. Please feel free to reach out to us for any questions. Thank you so much. Thank you.